Okay, let's go. Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. Tottenham played Hearts in our first proper pre-season friendly last night, and we are going to go through everything that happened. There's so much that we learned, so much young talent on display from Tottenham, and Postecoglou being brave to give those players that opportunity in that second half. He changed everything at half-time, and it paid off. Look, you have to caveat it with the fact that it's a pre-season game. You can't read too much into it, of course. But we're going to go through everything in this video. Make sure to smash the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. This is my first live stream, so I do apologise if there are any hiccups. We have done a few tests. Everything should be all good. But yeah, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to go through absolutely everything that you need to know about Tottenham Hearts last night in this live stream now. So, where should we start? Because there was a lot of positives to be taken. This is how Tottenham lined up last night. Brennan Johnson in goal. Archie Gray and Oliver Skipp at the back really caught the eye in terms of the team selection. Obviously, it kind of was caveated by the fact that we didn't really have any fit centre-backs. Obviously, Ashley Phillips was on the bench and played in the second half. Radu Dragusin, Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven are all still away after their international commitments this summer. So we knew that he was going to have to do something interesting. Obviously, Spurs played a behind-closed-doors friendly on Saturday against Cambridge. We knew that Gray played, we knew that Bergvall played, but we don't know in what capacity. Maybe Gray played at centre-back in that game. Gray said after the game that he'd play anywhere for Tottenham, and that's what we saw, because we saw a brilliant performance from him, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. I can see a couple of people in the chat. Proby, how you doing, mate? Rory, how you doing, mate, as well? Yeah, make sure to like the stream, subscribe for more. There's going to be a lot more of these coming over the summer. So yeah, this was the team that lined up last night. Gray and Skipp at the back, Basuma in midfield, kind of in that build-up, in that 2-5-3 sort of formation, really. Kulusevski in that sort of number 10, that right-hand side, number 8. James Maddison back into the side. Yves Basuma kind of as that single pivot, but we know in build-up a lot of the time with Spurs, we're able to kind of create that box in midfield, and Maddison can sort of push up, and Basuma can come in here with Porro, and it allows you to play out a lot easier. Jamie Donnelly is that inverted left-back, really sort of pushing on, getting into these areas a lot as well in the build-up. And I was really impressed with him last night. And we're going to go through all the goals. We're going to go through everything in this stream. This was also the team that played in the second half, in case anyone didn't see the game. Like I said, he made 11 changes at half-time. Dane Scarlett and Valiz also got minutes. He rotated those strikers. Will Lankshear came on, was absolutely excellent, got his goal. Mikey Moore coming on, playing on that right-hand side. Timo Werner on the left-hand side, Alfie Devine. And we got to see Lucas Bergvall playing in the flesh for Tottenham, something that we've wanted to see for a long time, and we got that. So, where should we start then? Let's start with the goals. Let's start with, I want to talk about Dejan Kulusevski, because as I mentioned, he was playing in this sort of pocket here as that right-hand sided number 8. We saw him used there a lot towards the end of last season. Ange Postecoglou seeming to like him in the number 10 role. Centrally, he plays the false 9 as well towards the end of the season in that last game against Sheffield United. And yeah, he was able to drift around. And I thought he was really good in that first half. And we obviously will come on to the first goal, which he was heavily involved in. But let's talk about Kulusevski. What I loved about him, and we've got some screenshots. We've got screenshots for all the goals. We've got screenshots for a lot of the players. I wanted to highlight Bergvall and Archie Gray specifically in this, obviously, because a lot of people want to see them. And a lot of people have been waiting to see them play together. We didn't see that last night, but we both saw them get good minutes on the pitch. Kulusevski, what I love about him here, you can see Son dropping a little bit deeper in that as that striker. Very fluid attack last night from Spurs in both halves, really. Obviously had more of a focal point in Lankshear in the second half, but Heung-Min Son played as that sort of floating number 9 in the first half. He drops deep here. Kulusevski there, looking for the ball. That's not an easy pass for Son to sort of play that into him, but you can see he's scanning. Plays it into Maddison, bumps it off him, and runs. Again, Kulusevski already looking over to that left-hand side where Donnelly has taken up that nice little pocket there, and Solomon holding the width on the left-hand side as well. And on the turn, he's able to receive it there. What's the easy pass for him there? He can either really open things up and go out to Solomon. Donnelly's making that run in here to create that space, but you can see Sonny running up in behind him here. And he just plays a lovely little reverse ball on the stretch, and Son's in, and he probably should score. But this is what Kulusevski can do in those positions. Incredible vision. I'll go back here, already scanning, already looking at what his options are. It's a lovely little move. And then move on to the goal. Still saw this a lot from Kulusevski when he was playing in those sort of central areas, that give and go. A game that stuck out to me last night when I was watching him was that Newcastle game. I don't know if you Spurs fans in the chat remember that, or we beat them 4-1 at White Hart Lane last season. He played as that number 10 with James Maddison injured, and we saw a lot of this, a lot of these little flicks, a lot of those give and goes, and then getting into central positions. Obviously, Maddison, who I thought was really good last night, really positive. Saw him bump it into Kulusevski there. Lovely flick just round the corner. Maddison's in. And yeah, I thought Kulusevski was great. And it'll be very interesting to see. And let me know in the chat what you think. Do you think Gay and Kulusevski will be used in more of a central role next season? Whether he will be used out wide? I think he's such a great asset to have in the squad. I really, really do. And look, I'm a huge fan of Kulusevski as a player anyway. But I think he's almost unlocked something a little bit. Dejan Kulusevski has spoken for so long about how he almost sees himself more as a central player, as that number 10. Rather than a winger, and I think we're going to see that a lot next season. Such a great versatile option to have in the squad with so much quality as well. Let's go to the chat then. What are some people saying here? So Gray and Kulu were unreal last night. T. Smither, I agree, mate. I do. So impressive, Archie Gray. We'll come on to him in a sec. Skinny Fat Huey, thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Always good to see a fellow Spurs slug there. Proby, proper juiced up about Gray, aren't you? I mean, rightfully so. Ready for the season start, mate. Definitely. We'll come on to Archie Gray very, very shortly. But what I want to talk about as well is Brennan Johnson. You can't see Brennan Johnson here because my big head is in the way. Let me move myself over. Now you can see Johnson has completely lost those markers at the back post. Brennan Johnson did this so well at times last season, kind of got on the blind side of defenders, but maybe when he got into that position, he either got it stuck under his feet a little bit. But I think, and we'll come on to Timo Werner a little bit as well, who does so well in those left-hand channels and fizzes those balls low into the box. I genuinely think there's a 10 or 15 goal season, maybe even 20 goal a season in all comps coming for Brennan Johnson, because he's so effective with his movement off the ball, and he gets himself into these areas here, into situations where he can't miss. And again, we saw him miss a few of those last season where he just either goes too early or arrives too late maybe. But that will become Brennan Johnson's archetype goal next season. I genuinely believe that. And we already saw a lot of it last season. So I was buzzing for him. Think there's a big season ahead. For sure. Definitely. Let's move myself back over here before we move on. Because before we get on to the rest of the goals, obviously, which came in the second half, let's talk about Archie Gray and what he did really, really well last night. Let me know in the chat who you thought was the best player overall over the two halves. I think it probably was Archie Gray. I think he stood out so well, obviously playing out of position as well. And again, you have to caveat it with the fact that it was a pre-season game against the quality of opposition that we were playing. But I was really, really impressed with him last night. In the chat then, T. Smither, for me, Kulu has got to be played central false 9 or that number 10 role. I agree, that's where I see his kind of long-term future. But again, Skinny Fat Huey coming in there, saying the opposite. Wide, I think he only played there due to international tournaments. I feel like he'll be behind Madders, but predominantly on the right. I guess with Kulu, I think with Kulusevski, there'll be a lot of rotation because obviously there's a lot of games coming next season in Europe. But I think that rotation will come in games as well. Like last season, how many times were we 1-0 down towards the end of the season and he'd make bold changes at half-time, play Kulusevski on the right-hand side in the first half, then drop him that little bit deeper and play Johnson as the outlet on that right-hand side, because I think Kulusevski is so good at picking up pockets of space, playing those balls in between the lines as well into Johnson. And I really like the idea of Kulusevski centrally. But again, I do think that's something, and maybe whether it happens from the starting games or not, we'll see. But I think he's got that option to change it in-game as well. So I really, really like that. Let's come on to Archie Gray. Oh boy. Is there any way, can we pay Leeds a bit more money? Anyway, anyone? Superb. Really, really good. Line-breaking passes, which we're going to come on to here. Obviously not under much pressure, but he's able to whip that pass into Sonny. And who does that remind you of playing out from the back? Christian Romero, getting high up onto the halfway line, fizzing those balls into the forwards. I can't remember if I got a screenshot. Oh, yeah, of Sonny flicking it on. Spurs will score goals like this next year. Sonny's flick on, I think it gets blocked by the defender. But you see Kulusevski there, just out of the picture behind my head. Kulusevski's ready to dart into that space. Gray fires it into him, into Son, and the little flick around the corner doesn't quite come off. Again, I thought his ball playing out from the back was very composed. Here, another example of him reading the danger. Doesn't commit too early on this challenge. Obviously, we're a bit exposed here. Porro's central. He's got Skip alongside him. If there's a runner here, they're kind of in. But Gray waits to make the challenge, and then in he goes and wins the ball back into Basuma, and Spurs can play out. Basuma loses the ball here on the halfway line. Again, you can see the seagull coming to the picture there. The seagulls last night were making this viewing experience pretty horrendous. But Basuma loses it. But again, Gray is there, able to mop things up, and is able to just use that composure and just play out really nicely. Again, Gray out from the back here, evades a challenge under pressure. And he does fall a little bit here. He is under pressure and he feels that, but he's still able to wriggle away with that strength that he's got on that frame. Again, ball coming up to the halfway line. It's bobbling, it's bouncing. What does he do? Gets above the striker and just puts his body there and reads it incredibly well. Again, he's got the long pass in his locker as well with this long diag over to Solomon. You can't see quite out of the picture there. Apologies for that bad screenshot. But again, good ping, and it goes to Solomon over the head of the defender. This is what I was really impressed with. Obviously, you can't see Archie Gray in the picture here. But Spurs work it nicely in this move. I think a cross comes into the box maybe and it's headed away. Archie Gray's not in shot there. But what's going to be really good as well in midfield next season is that anticipation and that reading of the danger. And he's just there, ready to anticipate a receive, get in behind the striker, and again, Spurs are able to play. Another one here, final few examples of here, just perfect timing in the tackle. And again, just a comfortable little pass back to his, I believe that's probably back to Oliver Skipp, back to his centre-back partner. To come in and show that much composure, and I think we've got some stats from Archie Gray's game here. Shout out to Spurs Express. Obviously, this is on Twitter. Go and follow me on Twitter as well. Ben _Bowman _ it'll be in the description. And go and follow the TikTok page. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks. I can see a lot of people in the chat. It's my first live, so I'm buzzing to do this. Go to some comments here quickly before we go to these stats from Archie Gray. Skinny Fat Huey again. Gray was phenomenal in the first half. Seeing him live was fantastic. Such a clever footballer. Exactly. I think he's one of those ones where, again, I made a video on him. Go and check that out on my channel. Again, you kind of recalling back to some of the times that you maybe saw him last season. I'm sure we maybe all watched him play against Chelsea in the FA Cup. But again, to kind of see it firsthand and see it for yourself rather than just on the highlight reels was really, really, really impressive. Both Johnson and Kudu can play 9 if needed. Spence was great. A lot of Spurs players are versatile. Exactly. Got so much versatility in this squad, and that's what Archie Gray speaks to really well as well. Such a clever sign. And again, we'll come on to Spence a little bit later. Rui, could we see Madders and Kulu being part of the midfield three? Potentially. Again, Rui, I think it's kind of one of those things that we go to in games a little bit. And again, depending on the opposition, maybe from the start, as we saw last night. Obviously, we didn't have Pat Matassar to pick from last night. I think he's still maybe getting over a bit of a knock or a bit of fatigue. I think he'll be fine for the tour, though, Andrew was saying. So yeah, I think we definitely could. And Bordeaux there, Bergvall looked physically so much better than I expected. 100%. That was what I was really impressed with Bergvall. But we'll come on to Bergvall a little bit later. Archie Gray's stats here. 50 out of 52 passes completed, 5 passes into the final third, 2 out of 2 accurate long balls, 1 clearance, 1 headed clearance, 3 interceptions, 3 ball recoveries, 1 out of 1 ground duel, won all of his 3 ground duels and didn't commit a single foul. Such composure from the young lad. And again, I love his attitude after the game, sort of coming out and saying, look, again, I didn't expect to be playing centre-back, but here we are. And he's come in and done a really good job. And again, it's something that maybe in the future Spurs can say, look, if we really need you, you can come and do a job in here. But again, have to take, obviously, the opposition into account when you think of these things and the pressure of the situation. So yeah, that was obviously first half, really encouraging. This was the lineup in the second half. Obviously changed everything. Tyrese Hall coming in to play at that base of that midfield. Alfie Devine, who I thought was superb. Shout out to Alfie Devine, because again, I think he's something that maybe someone that Spurs fans have forgotten a little bit, really. Obviously, did really well at Port Vale last season on loan. Got that step up to Plymouth. Struggled a little bit there. They had a new manager, and he did really well. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he ran that midfield in the second half. This was such a trio with Bergvall, Hall, and Devine. It was just so fun to watch. Bergvall kind of coming in here. Bergvall often kind of coming in as the single pivot, allowing Hall to go on. I think we saw that towards the end of the game. Such fluidity in that midfield, which I was such a fan of. Obviously, Will Lankshear comes on as well. Mikey Moore on that right-hand side. We'll chat about Mikey Moore. My word, we'll chat about Mikey Moore. Max Robson coming on, filling in at left-back, just like Jamie Donnelly did. Really, really from him. Bergvall's very composed. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know if I've lost the chat here. I think we're good. I think we're back. Yeah, this was the lineup for the second half. So let's get into some of the goals then. Just let me know in the chat if am I still here? Are you still with me? Hopefully we're all good. Apologies. Like I said, this is my first stream, so if there are a few hiccups, then I apologise with that, but I think we should be okay. Right, let's move on to the second half, and let's move on to the goals before we come on and talk about Lucas Bergvall. So let's just rewind this. Obviously, Hearts equalise, mistake from Emerson Royale. What did we all expect? 30 seconds on the pitch, and he gives away that goal. Was frustrating. Okay, I think we're good. This was lovely from Jed Spence. Jed Spence was fantastic when he came on. Driving run. What has been really impressive about Jed Spence, and I was just on the Fighting Cock, we were talking about this, is that you look at a lot of the fullbacks that Spurs have brought in over the last few years with Destiny Doggy, Pedro Porro, and Jed Spence, another one. They were all kind of brought in as wing-backs, right? But how well all three of them, obviously Jed Spence, very small sample size, have kind of come in and adapted to a very new position, playing as that inverted fullback, almost as a number 10 a lot of the time, kind of in that build-up. We definitely see that with Porro. We saw that a lot yesterday. Obviously, Porro having that chance where he was through one-on-one, there to receive it from a flick round the corner from Som, getting themselves into really good, exciting attacking areas. But Jed Spence, what was more impressive about him was his ball-carrying ability and his ability to arrive late in the box. Obviously, got his goal that way. But this was a brilliant run. Obviously, plays a little 1-2, wants it back, and he plays that little ball through to Lankshear. Lankshear's movement is so impressive. And who did that remind you of? All right, Spurs fans, Harry Kane, a little bit. The narrative there, the arc is there with Lankshear, just how he arced his run of him coming from Arsenal. Boyhood Spurs fan, kissing the badge last night. Really good movement from him there to get him behind, because he's offside. I can't remember. I think I might have a screenshot of it from the other angle. Obviously, he goes on through to finish. Yeah, we've got it here. So when Spence picks that ball up, obviously you can see Lankshear offside position, but the desire to get back quickly and then end up in that position just a fraction of a second later, he peels back. Something I've noticed a lot with Will Lankshear in terms of his movement, and I noticed it particularly in the Premier League Cup final where he scored a couple of his goals, was his ability to peel back. He loves that kind of little peel back. His movement is sensational. And he does that really well. Offside, comes back into an onside position and just arcs that run and darts. Really, really good. And here was the third goal scored by Mikey Moore. And my word, that kid. Playing on that right-hand side. Again, it's not really a position we've seen him playing too much. Obviously, he likes to play off the left. Again, there's a video out, Mikey Moore, on the channel. So go and watch that. Yeah, go and give that a watch. And yeah, playing that right-hand side. Likes to often play in that number 10 or through the middle or out on the left. But again, doesn't complain, goes out and plays and looks brilliant. So Alfie Devine here, like I said, who I thought was superb, plays the pass, line-breaking pass into Bergvall here. Bergvall on the half-turn. You can see Moore making the dart already. Lankshear's made that dart in there to open up the space for Mikey Moore. And yeah, what you'll see a lot in this position, obviously Mikey Moore makes the dart in there. Lovely little flick from Bergvall. Just gets it out of his feet so quickly. What a lot of people would do here, obviously Lankshear opens up the space for Moore to drive into. But sometimes you'd see a striker or a winger from that position almost panic and just kind of keep driving in towards the goal. But Mikey Moore's got the composure to check back and then fire it across the goalkeeper. Really, really good from Mikey Moore. This kid, I genuinely think, is going to be a star. 16 years old at the moment. Professional contract with Spurs when he turns 17. Just really need to make sure we can keep hold of him this summer, which I think we'll do. Owen writes in the chat there, commentator for Spurs play, thought Moore was playing left back. I mean, there were so many kind of changings of positions and kind of fluidity that you can't blame him in a way, but I did also pick up on that. Shout out to Max Robson, who was excellent at left back as well. It's important to recognise that. But yeah, Mikey Moore, such composure in the finish. Like I said, it'd be so easy for him to almost continue to drive into that space and have a go and maybe just not able to get out of his feet or sort of poke a shot or goal with his left foot. But again, just stops dead, little composure to check back and then back across the goalkeeper. So hard to stop. Where are we now? So goal number 4, Alfie Devine. Brilliant. And let me know in the chat what you thought of Alfie Devine's performance as well. Yeah, like I said, I apologise if there's any buffering or anything like that. I think we're all good in terms of the internet. It's my first stream. There's bound to be a few teething problems, but we'll get there. Alfie Devine Picks the ball up on the half turn there. Little nutmeg as well. See you later. I know he got a bit lucky. Took a little bit of a deflection, but he's through and he's away. And he just drives. And that pass with the outside of his boot, again, you can see the seagulls there. The main characters of the day. Lovely little ball outside of his foot. I was so impressed with Devine. This is what Werner's so good at. And this is what I was saying earlier in terms of Werner and Johnson really combining, whether that's in the league, whether that's the Europa League. We need a couple more, or maybe one more kind of winger profile or winger option. But I'd love that we've got this with Werner. So direct. Again, Werner can be frustrating sometimes, can be frustrating in front of goal. But to get to the byline, and there were so many times where he produced these fizzing low balls into the box. Look how many players Spurs have got running in here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 players in the box. 5 if you include Werner. 6 then if you include Mikey Moore, who ends up in that position there when the ball comes across. You've got 3 players there. Is that 2 or 3 players that could have attacked that? And Spence gets in and gets his goal, bundles it on the line. Like I said, Werner just out of shot there. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. Mikey Moore there, not to be confused with a seagull. Getting in, willing to score. And how many times did we see that last season? And again, when you think about Jed Spence and you think about why he was brought in initially at Spurs, Spurs obviously play with those wing-backs that like to attack the space on the counter-attack, on transition, high and wide. We saw goals where it would be one wing-back to another with the other arriving late to score in the box. This is Jed Spence. Destiny a doggy-like, getting in there to bundle it in on the goal line. You know, we saw that with the doggy a lot last season, the positions that he picked up himself. And that's what I really liked. I loved Jed Spence's attitude and his application. I think if he can really continue to work on that and show that he can be valuable to Ange Postecoglou next season, I think it really solves a problem for Spurs. So I was really impressed with Jed Spence. And then the 5th goal, obviously Bergvall does really well with the cross. Scarlett should probably do a little bit better with the header, but Phillips bundles it in. There's nothing really to pick apart from that goal other than the superb cross from Bergvall. And now's a good time to come on to Bergvall. Let's go to the chat. Owen Rice, I thought Alfie was excellent, stayed really high and moved the ball so quickly. Tempo was great in the second half. Totally agree. Tempo was great when we had the ball. Obviously, that anticipation, that desire to win the ball back as well, I thought was really good. No fear in these youngsters. Again, I know you kind of have to take the opposition into account and the level of quality that we were playing against, but I thought it was great. I thought Alfie Devine was really great. And don't sleep on Alfie. Don't forget about him amongst all of this as well. I know we've got a lot of exciting attacking talent, but this kid is someone who's gone away, had a few loans, and he's here to show why he's really got a chance now of proving himself to Big Ange. I loved his performance. Really, really did. Skinny Fat Hughes, given how much focus was going to be on the new boys and the fact that he still stood out was really encouraging. Absolutely. Absolutely when it comes to Alfie Devine. 100%. Thanks for all the support in the chat as well. Love that you're all getting involved. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And let's talk about what a lot of people have, you know, what we all wanted to see really. Lucas Bergvall. And I've only got this screenshot that I wanted to show, right? Because I thought Bergvall's game was great. I thought there were a few sloppy moments, but again, his desire to go and win the ball back. I wanted to talk about this move. I made a TikTok about this move, right? And again, it's simple. It's simple football. But, and the people who say that you're hyping him up over nothing, this is so simple, but it gets taken for granted. He's under pressure there. He's the one, and this is what I was talking about earlier, in terms of that fluidity in this midfield, that Hall... Devine would be pushed up quite high a lot of the time. Obviously, Lankshear wasn't on the pitch by this point. Move these all up a little bit. Emerson and Phillips can split. Robson can come into these positions. Let's put Tyrese Hall in there. Or it was more in here, actually, sort of for this move. Emerson and Phillips split. Bergvall can come in here and be the one. And then Spence can come in here with Robson as well. I believe it was Scarlett on the pitch at this time. So let's give him a go. And the width is then coming from Werner and obviously coming from Moore. And then Emerson and Phillips almost become your options as fullbacks in that build-up a little bit. So Bergvall is the one that goes and picks the ball up from the keeper. He's able to then knock it into Hall, come here, pop it off into Alfie Devine, who spots that first-time ball with Scarlett. Obviously, Scarlett making that dart in behind, and Devine is able to find him, obviously goes around the keeper and misses. But I love this sort of fluidity with these two. Hall is obviously someone who's a brilliant ball carrier, has played as that deepest midfielder, as that number 6 for Spurs, under 21s a lot. But that just shows Bergvall can go and do it as well. I can go and be the one that picks the ball up off of the keeper, and that's what we saw in this move here. Under pressure, back to goal. Just picture someone like Pierre Moore maybe in that situation. And again, obviously, you have to take the game state and the game situation into play here in terms of the context of the opposition and all those things. But the composure to just play that ball outside of the foot, under pressure, round the corner to Tyrese Hall. He bumps it off of him, Hall in a lot of space. Bergvall's like, yep, give me it back. Drives forward, and then he splits the lines. Takes 2 players out of that game with that ball into Devine, who on the half turn, so impressive again. And a lovely little ball through to Dane Scarlett. Obviously, Scarlett goes around the keeper and isn't able to finish. And I do wonder, again, this is something we talked about on the Fighting Cock, about whether Scarlett is going to feel that pressure a little bit now. Obviously, with Lankshear, so impressive in his movement. Obviously, let's go back to Lankshear. Let's go back to the first goal. Obviously, shows that movement in behind and shows the composure to finish, almost Harry Kane-like. And again, this is no disrespect toward Dane Scarlett at all, because I'm a massive fan of him. But again, when you think of the fact that we've got Aleo Veliz, who we paid a decent bit of money for, we've got Richarlison, there's talk of another striker potentially coming in, we've got Sonny that can play through the middle as well. I just wonder whether he's feeling that pressure a little bit. I do wonder whether that, and he's going to, obviously, Ange Postecoglou has spoken about the fact that he likes him a lot, and he almost sees him ahead of Aleo Veliz in the pecking order a little bit. Is now the time for Scarlett to perform? Is that pressure really on him now? We shall see. Dr. Johnny, flowing football, exactly. Owen Rice, this clip right here is exactly what England were missing on Sunday. Do you know what? When I was putting this together, Owen, you're absolutely right. You are right. And again, I think that comes from the fact that I don't think England have got that vision and identity in terms of the way that they want to play. Those patterns are so clear for Tottenham. But there is fluidity among that. I was on the Ripple Effect with James Alcott and Harry Brooks, who I'm sure you all know. Go and listen to it now. James, obviously fantastic. A big inspiration for me for starting YouTube and doing these streams. So, yeah, amazing for me to be able to do that. And Harry Brooks, obviously, who is a brilliant football coach and sort of football analyst in the way that he brings things across on Twitter. He's superb. And we were talking about England and talking about that kind of lack of identity. And Harry was talking about there needs to be some form of structure and identity in terms of the way that you want to play, but there has to be freedom within that. And I think you're seeing that with Tottenham, and I do think this is kind of a good example of that. Obviously, this looks a bit of a mess now, but obviously you were watching the stream, you would have known what I was trying to get at with this midfield. And obviously then this, if we go back to the team side, the first half, this 2-5-3 shape that Spurs tend to build up with. Obviously the 2 centre-backs, the 5 across midfield, and then the wingers. I just think this suits Spurs so well. We've got so many people that are comfortable on the ball. Archie Gray being one of them. There's a lot to be excited about next season. Look, I'm going to end it there. Thanks so much for the love in the chat. My first live stream. Apologies if there was issues with the connection at some point. We'll make sure to get that sorted. And yeah, there's probably going to be another one of these Sunday after the QPR game. I did a live watch along on TikTok as well for the game last night. So if you were there, shout out to you. That was incredible. Really, really enjoyed that. Probably going to be doing that for all the pre-season games. Could even do them on here maybe as well. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below who you thought the best player was last night. Who stood out to you? What really encouraged you? Just let me know any thoughts you've got on the game last night in the comments below. Thank you so much for the support on the channel. And yeah, up the Spurs.